If you've been struggling with your camera settings when creating higher quality content, you have come to the right place. My name is Tayllor Lloyd. I am your new tech best friend, and today we're gonna be just talking all about camera settings. Now, if you don't follow me on Instagram or TikTok, then you probably wouldn't know, but I've been shooting short form content lately and I've been using my camera for it. And you guys have been loving the quality. You've been asking a bunch of questions, but the main question I've been getting is, what are your camera settings? Tayllor, what are your camera settings? What camera settings are you using? Can you please tell us, or else we gonna pull up on you? Does it feel aggressive at times? Yes, but I thought it would be easier if I just sat down and did a long form video explaining my camera settings and why I use them the way I do, because just giving you numbers would do nothing for you. I promise it would do nothing, and that's why I haven't been doing it. Anywho, let's get into it now. I have two things I want to talk about before we do this. Skip them if you want. The first thing is a disclaimer. I am not a photographer, a videographer, a cinematographer, not none of them. I'm just a regular girl who enjoys high quality content. Number two, I want to tell you guys the equipment that I'm currently using. So I'm going to run through it really quickly. I am shooting currently on my EOS RP. It is a Canon camera. I have two panel lights that I got them from Amazon. I have my Field World 4K monitor sitting on top of my camera. That is so I can make sure that I am in frame when I look like this. That's what I'm looking at. I have my iPad here that I normally use as a monitor, but I currently have my script on here, so I can't. I have a light behind me that's pink. It's a tube light. That's what it looks like. Everything is linked under the video, under shop, my filming setup. Did I forget something? Oh, my microphone. My microphone is a wireless mic from Movo, so I will also link that for y'all. So we're gonna kind of go through this like trifecta of settings. We're gonna start with ISO. So ISO controls the brightness of your image or your video. Just think of it as like exposure, because that's the way I think of it. It helps me remember it. The higher the ISO, the more overexposed. The lower the ISO, the darker the image. I shoot at 100, and here's how I'm able to do that and why this is important. The lower your ISO, the better the quality your camera will put out. When you start shooting and your ISO is like 2000, 2500, it starts to get kind of gritty. You lose that crispness that you would normally have with a lower ISO. It's kind of like the way my mind uses it is like artificial lighting, like forced lighting. It lets more light into your camera, but it compromises the quality of the output of like the video or image. Shoot on a lower ISO, you get better quality. This is why I shoot on 100. I have two panel lights that light up this room very well. If I turn these lights off and I tried to shoot at 100, you would see nothing but the like lights. You would not see me at all. So this is why lighting in your environment is really important. If you are in an environment where you can control your lighting, it'll help with the quality of your content. Sometimes you're shooting and you're in uncontrolled environments like outside or vlogging around. Those things, it's subject to change. Put it on auto, cross your fingers. That's what I do. There's like a little general rule that when you start going over 800, that's when the quality starts to like decrease. If you can't shoot with it lower, that's gonna work best in your favor. Cool? Cool. Next up is shutter speed. Shutter speed is the length of time the camera shutter stays open to allow light in to capture an image or a video. So the image that I'm gonna put on the screen is a really good, just helpful little key. However, I don't mess with my shutter speed a lot. I don't really mess around with it. It pretty much stays where it is, and I'm gonna explain why. But essentially, the slower the shutter speed, the more blurry the image or video. The faster the shutter speed, the more crisp and concise. Shutter speed when you're shooting video, which is what I do for the most part. I don't really use my camera for photos. I mostly use it to shoot video like this. When you're shooting video, the rule of thumb is that your shutter speed should be double your frame rate. I usually shoot on 30 frames per second or 24, somewhere in there. My shutter speed kind of jumps between 50 to 60. Once I learned the little trick that it should be double the frame rate when shooting video, I kind of left it alone because I'm like, if it ain't broke. Again, I'm speaking from a predominant video space. So if you are shooting images, the rules may be different. They probably are. Last but not least is aperture. So aperture is also known as f-stop or bokeh. It is how open or closed your camera's lens is, or like your camera's iris eye. I think it's so funny when they call it an iris because it's like is a camera, but it essentially is how open or closed your iris is for your camera. The way f-stop value works is the lower your f-stop is, the more blurry the background is going to be. So right now, my f-stop is on 1.8. I usually shoot between like 2.8 and 1.8 depending on my lens. The lens you have has a limit to it, right? So mine goes all the way down to 1.8 on my 24mm, and that's what I shoot on. I like a blurry background. I'm always gonna opt for the blurriest background, which is why I predominantly shoot with prime lenses. I find that prime lenses have that really low f-stop where sometimes some zoom lenses, the affordable ones, they usually have a higher f-stop of like 4.8 or whatever. Anywho, the higher your f-stop is, the less blurry your background is. When I'm shooting in video, like I said, I go for the lowest f-stop possible. The thing is that f-stop can make your image darker, so you kind of have to play with it a little bit, because there are times where with my lighting and my ISO, if I try to shoot on the lowest f-stop, it may be a little bit too dark, so I have to kind of like tweak my settings to make it work. But if I have the option to choose the blurrier background, I'ma choose it, and that's what your f-stop or your aperture or your bokeh is essentially. Let's do a quick little recap here, okay, just to make sure we got some good, valuable takeaways. Your ISO is your exposure, and you want to try to stay underneath 800 if possible. The shutter speed should be double the frame rate that you are shooting at when you're shooting video, so keep that in mind. For the aperture, determine whether you want darker or lighter image, and if you want a blurry background or a crisp background, then you can set that number accordingly. Remember, the lower the number, the blurrier the background, the higher number, the more crisp everything is. So again, I'm gonna put my current settings above my head so you can just have them. The reason I wanted to break these down to you is because your environment controls your camera settings. I am in one environment, you may be in a totally different one, so just handing over those numbers without any explanation, I think is just not helpful at all. So I hope you guys take something away from this. Hopefully this helps you get a start on adjusting your camera settings to work for you. As always, drop your questions down below and I will be sure to answer them either there or in another video. I will see you guys later. Bye.